University diversity officer loses it online, demanding white people, quote, fix your freaking families, unquote. Meanwhile, dozens more blacks were killed in Chicago by other blacks over the past week. Those broken families are apparently A-OK to our academic idiot masquerading as a campus diversity officer. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is The Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we start in Colorado, where the Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion at Colorado Springs University goes on an unhinged rant blaming the Capitol riot all on white people and their families. Now, these are the kind of stories happens once a month that really butter my buns. This is the kind of stuff that pisses me off. Think about the world we live in today. We're told now that if you say to black people, hey, maybe don't have kids out of wedlock, because every metric shows that having kids out of wedlock leads to poverty. If we say to African Americans, hey, stay in school, quit dropping out at rates higher than other races, you're a bigot for saying that, right? If we say to African Americans, hey, try focusing on subjects like math and science and STEM. Try raising your overall grades, getting your kids excited about education. We're told we're being racist. Any advice we have for struggling black families? The black mayor of Chicago, one of the blackest cities in the country, where blacks are murdering each other at insane rates. And if you point that out, well, that's a microaggression. Yet, this drooling moron who happens to have a six-figure job in a university, who couldn't be probably employed anywhere else in the entire economy, is going to give you this little piece of advice. Watch, friends.
And we will not be okay until every doggone white person out here recognizes this is the result of white supremacy. This is your fault. I don't need a hug. I need you to fix your freaking families. I need you to fix yourself. I need you to fix this. Do that. Do that. So that white supremacy dies once and for all.
The silver lining in that silly rant is that she doesn't need a hug. Can you imagine lining up for that duty?
Well, I have to correct you on one thing. She actually does have another job. She's a pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Colorado Springs. And as you saw, her name is Stephanie Rose Spalding, and she is also a former U.S. congressional candidate. So she has lots of aspirations to inform the public of what it is.
Asperger's?
No, I said aspirations.
Just want to make sense, because that whiny little emotive experience.
It was closer to Tourette's. But anywho, moving on. She also, as you said, currently is the interim. She'll be promoted. With that rant, she'll be promoted.
Guaranteed.
And for sure be the Vice Chancellor for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And we've said it 150 times maybe on this show. Anytime you get someone in any position that has anything to do with being a vice chancellor of equity, diversity, and or inclusion means that they hate you more than they hate anyone else.
Yeah, and I love it. Fix your doggone families. It's going to go really
That would, if anyone else would have said that, that would be considered racist.
It would be, exactly. But we
can't. You cannot say doggone.
Can't say doggone.
That's racist.
When you look at the story, I mean, this is the thing that is so frustrating about our culture, that to imply in the country that has more opportunity for people than anyone in the history of the world. Again, black and brown skinned people are killing themselves to get here from all over the world because they get it, right? And this has always puzzled me immensely. Because what the liberals are saying is that black people are stupid. When black people come to this country from places like Haiti or Africa, when they get here, we're such a racist crap hole, right? Mm-hmm. That you're saying that black people risk their life to get here, brown-skinned people risk their lives to get here, and then they get here, and then they see how racist the liberals say we are. Why would you stay here? Why would you, on top of, because we don't let blacks have any opportunities. No. We don't let blacks and minorities make any money in this country. Not only do we hate them, we just stifle them. So why would they stay here? The whole premise is BS. They don't leave because they start making money right away. They have opportunities here that they never had anywhere else in the world. And isn't it interesting that blacks that come here today from places like Africa, they don't share the same worldview that blacks that have been here for 250 years share, right? They see this as a land of opportunity. They see this as a land. They've come from starvation. They've come from famine. They've come from despotic regimes. So they don't see the way that American blacks see it. And that's why, even with Barack Obama, right, until he proved his bona fides as president in terms of his liberal background, there were a lot of people who didn't want him to win. Remember, African Americans, he's not really down for the struggle. His father was an African, his mother was a white woman. Barack in his mom jeans and his underhand pitching style when he threw balls out for the Yankees, he's not really one of us, right?
That's what you grab onto.
That's all I grab onto.
Well,
that's enough to disqualify him.
His tan suit also disqualifies him.
Yes.
But anyway,
very.
I mean, obviously we know this. Anyone who has been outside of the United States, anyone who's actually seen struggle, can show that, what's that G word? Gratitude towards what America offers. That we don't just give you everything, that you have the opportunity to earn it yourself. And with that comes not only responsibility, but a sense of pride. And that's what these people are looking for. They're not always looking for just to be given everything. But the people who were born here and the ones who tend to put a D next to their name tend to be basically just saying that I am entitled to everything. You need to give it to me. And if you don't, then obviously you're racist, classist, sexist, bigot, any ism you want to put out there.
And the irony is you and I just had a rational conversation about opportunity. We cited statistics, we cited facts. We explained in great detail the difference between those who come here and those who were born here, the entitlement mentality of African Americans born in this country. And all of that now is just simply written off as white supremacy. Logic, reason, conversation, civility. Yes. We've been told by the left that these are all just remnants of white supremacy. She says one more thing, though. One more thing that she's before we leave her. She's also very critical of law enforcement during the Capitol quote-unquote insurrection.
Well, yeah, because this entire rant that she went on, it wasn't her, Wednesday rant. It was a specific, well, maybe it was her Wednesday rant, but it was very specific to what happened at the Capitol. And so, as you say, she basically talked about the police as well.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that's another example of why this country is doomed. And if we don't get back to a country where evidence matters, where rational discussion that proves things and disproves other things, if we don't, that's the only way the left is going to win. But think of what she says, because so many white celebrities, so many white politicians, Democrats, so many people have said this, that if it were black people storming the Capitol, instead of white people, they would have all been gunned down. They would have all been maced. Now look, for 8 months prior to this event, we have proof that that's not true. When black people and Black Lives Matter protests and Antifa, when they tried to burn down the church right next to the White House, what happened to them? Nothing. When they continue to this day to protest in places like Portland, Oregon, and they burn down buildings, and they throw rocks at cops, and they assault and battery anybody who they don't like in their little compounds, is there any consequence for African Americans who do those things? When you saw Black Lives Matter looters all across Chicago breaking into stores, destroying private property, engaging in Minneapolis in arson against a police station office, right? When that happened, what consequences were there for blacks who were destroying things? Nothing.
Free food,
promoting. They get TV deals. You
get
to be a diversity officer at Colorado Springs, right?
That's what you do.
Doggone families. And so you have a situation where for almost a year, you have seen that if you are black engaging in looting, rioting, arson, assault and battery for your cause, nothing's going to happen to you. Not a thing. And so you've got the false narrative now that all these white cops in the Capitol didn't gun everybody down because they were in cahoots with all these white people. And then all the white National Guard who you call in to protect Washington, D.C., they're all part of the conspiracy too because they're from places like, Colorado and Nebraska, and they're all white.
Well, we tend to have these stories every now and then, and when we find them out, we make sure to let you know about them because they are absurd. This is another sexual assault accusation case on a college campus, and in this instance, we have John Doe, because we're not using actual names here, but John Doe is a black male Dartmouth College football player. Woo!
Wait, can I stop you?
Go Dartmouth.
Using John Doe for a black football player has got to be a microaggression.
Somewhere it is, but it doesn't matter.
Can't we something come up with a little juicier?
He's the assaulter. It doesn't matter.
Joe Tante. How about Joe Tante?
John Doe.
No, all right, we're gonna go.
John Doe is a black
tried to warn you.
Male college football player, and he's been suspended for 2 years because of allegations from a female student. Now, he is alleging that the school actually is the one who discriminated against him on his sex and his race. This is where it gets interesting, is because once it's not a white college male student, then you can start playing the cards and seeing where the ladder falls. So we have court documents saying John Doe was asked by a female student who they referred to as Sally Smith. That's pretty good. Sally Smith wanted John Doe to walk her home after she had been partying on campus. Okay, apparently she had a few drinky drinks, and she called John because she didn't know where she lived. That's how drunk she was, or just incompetent. Now, John was sober since he doesn't drink alcohol. Okay, so John walked her home. They had a little talky-talk in the dorm room, and then, one thing led to another, and they had relations, we'll say. And now John's lawsuit claims that Sally had said yes, that she wanted to have relations, and that the two students had sex for just 2 or 3 minutes before they stopped.
How long have those two been married?
They're not married.
That's my point. 2 minutes.
I don't even want to. Moving on.
Man, that just
the next day.
You know how many stereotypes you're shattering here?
Next.
In urban culture.
Here we go.
You're breaking my heart, man.
Maybe Anyway, the next day, Sally then asked John to meet with her, and she had a friend listen in on the conversation and didn't let John know. This is like a whole drama unfolding. Now, Sally told John Doe that she didn't want to have sex with him and had asked, "Do you think I was in the right mindset to say yes?" And all of a sudden, a few days later, Sally reported to Dartmouth's Title IX office that John had sexually assaulted her. That's how these things go. And instead of the walk of shame, it's now the walk to the Title IX office allege someone of sexual assault.
This is not the fault of the idiot female student who is an idiot. It is not the fault of John Doe for being suckered into this. The problem here is the university, because the university has set up a system based on federal models, right? Betsy DeVos tried to kill this, by the way, and from day one, Donald Trump put it back in. You may recall that under the Obama administration, Title IX legislation wasn't passed back through Congress, wasn't amended by the constitutional process. Barack Obama just added a little note, a dear colleague note, to Title IX legislation that basically said that men and boys will require no due process if they're accused of sexual assault on campus. So the universities ran wild with this, right? Started prosecuting kids, young men who were accused for no reason. You think about what happened in this case. She literally says to her friend that I said yes, but do you think I was in the frame of mind to say yes?
And the thing is, Dartmouth actually determined that John had sex with Sally without her valid consent.
That's right.
But that it found that she wasn't incapacitated.
Right. So that's the
standard.
Let me lay that out for you, right? So she says that she did say yes.
No.
But she said, good.
Okay. The university determined it was without her consent.
Right, I know.
They're siding with her.
But what did she say to her friend?
Oh, she asked.
But what she said to her friend was, yeah, I said yes, but do you think I was in a state to say yes? So we've got her on record admitting that she said yes.
Well,
then her friend says to her, well, you couldn't have said yes because you didn't mean it. How do you know that? You regret it now, right? Now that the drink is worn out.
Yeah, well, she had asked John that, do you think?
That's right.
Her friend was just listening in on it.
In other words, there's not a district attorney in the country, not even Holder from the Obama administration, who would have taken this case, because she's already admitted she said yes. She's already admitted that it's only after she woke up the next day that she doubted whether she was in a place where she should have said yes. The young black male was sober, right? Mm-hmm. This would never be touched by a court of law. And yet at the universities, it drags on for 2 years.
Well, and now John is suing. And his attorney, Amy Spencer, wrote in the lawsuit that Sally may have misremembered the night due to her intoxication. And the lawsuit argues that Dartmouth's Title IX administrator, a white woman who was not named in the filing, showed implicit racial and sex-based bias against John.
Yep.
So it says in the lawsuit, for example, Doe said he had asked Smith if her roommate was home to see why she hadn't called her when Smith couldn't remember where she lived. Like, that makes sense. Call your dorm roommate to come get you, not some random football player. But the investigator said he was casing her living quarters.
Yes.
For doing that, for being like, hey, why don't you get your
Liberal
roommate?
white
You are
woman.
casing her
Liberal
dorm
white
room. What?
Liberal white administrator stereotypes young black man on campus who happens to not be drunk.
Yes, and the investigator also allegedly wrote that John yelled to Sally in the dining hall the morning after the encounter, while John said he merely called out to her.
Yelled?
Like,
do we know what
hey,
was yelled?
Sally. No, we do not. That we do not have that. But the lawsuit does claim that many of the inferences the investigator at the university drew from the evidence were based on this underlying biased and stereotypical view of the plaintiff as an aggressive, hypersexual black male. It also states that there have been at least 8 black football players before this man came forward who had been suspended or expelled following Title IX proceedings over the past 15 years. Can you guess how many white players face the same punishment?
0?
0.
Yeah. And so here's the thinking of a liberal feminist on a college campus, the woke of the woke. Well, we've had 8 other black boys, 7 other black guys accused. So because of that, that means this one has to be guilty too.
Well, we have a story coming out of the University of North Texas and their Student Health and Wellness Center. And you know what? They're giving students some,
Advice?
I'll just say advice on how to stay safe, during the coronavirus when it comes to their own personal pleasuring of masturbation. Dr. Duke, take it away.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about this, do you?
No.
You turning this over to me. All right, I'm the old perv guy. I'll take it from here, right? It's not your fault. Seriously. When you think about the inevitable collision between radical sexual liberation at college campuses, I mean, how many stories have we done in the last 4 years about sex fairs on campus, where during orientation week, young boys and girls are separated their first couple months on campus, and they're exposed, they're given sex toys, they're given exhibitions and modelings of how to use vibrators and dildos and all this stuff, and all these fairs that you've had on campus, promoting transgenderism, sexual experimentation, even things like radical sexual practices like anal intercourse, as if they are the most normative, healthy things in the world. And now you have a situation here where at the University of North Texas, the Student Health and Wellness Center gave out advice to the entire campus on staying safe during masturbation. Now, let's be clear. How can you be masturbating in an unsafe way? Is that your left hand doesn't ask the right hand permission? How does that work? How are you?
Tell me.
Yeah, you're turning it over to me, so I'm going with it. We're rolling with this. We're trying to apply logic to a sensitive subject. I guess it's sensitive. So how can you be unsafely masturbating? Well, apparently, according to North Texas University, your accelerated rate of breathing during masturbation, I suppose if you're doing it correctly, means that you're puffing and huffing out in ways that may further project the coronavirus. Is that what we're hearing here? What other logic is there in this? Oh, but by the end of the story, you find out something else. Something very much encouraged by North Texas University Health and Wellness Center. At this time of crisis, when you're not allowed to go out and party, why don't you stay in and mutually masturbate with others, with your roommate and other friends?
They actually put out tweets to inform their students of what to do, and one of them says, masturbate, ? And exclamation point, which means maybe, oh yes. Read below to learn more. And of course, they have to do an infographic because people need images.
Infographics.
They need images to help them understand. And it's suggested that, you know what? Let's just skip sex and stay in. And then you put your mask on.
But stay in and do what?
You're skipping the sex part. You're masturbating.
Right. And as you can see from the image there, if you're not feeling well, skip sex and stay in. And the premise is that you skipped sex, so you're going to masturbate now.
Yeah, they just basically have come to the conclusion that if you're not face to face because you got your mask on, then everything else is, then they follow it up with other things about, they just want to keep the conversation going.
Yeah. And the irony of this is that the university itself forced them to erase all this because what they were saying didn't comply with the university's COVID virus rules.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing is the tweets those ones that they just put out were actually removed because the university actually don't want students to go anywhere near each other.
Why is it that when we talk about education, whether it's preschool, public school, college, that none of these stories have anything to do with math or history or learning how to write better or literacy? It's all about stuff like this. As if the average 17-year-old needs a list of prescriptions about how to masturbate.
that special time again for some real education. The American painter George Hitchcock was born in 1850 in Providence, Rhode Island, and made his life as an artist mostly in the Netherlands. Among his many accolades, he became a Chevalier of the French Legion of Honor and a member of the Vienna Academy of Arts. He died in 1913, but in 1887, he painted a moving depiction of the Annunciation.
Yeah, and as Katie was teasing a little bit before, we do real education on this show. We like to close every show out, setting the politics aside, and giving you a little segment on some actual education. If you haven't heard of George Hitchcock, we'll talk about him in just a second here. He's often a forgotten American artist. We don't remember him much anymore. But in his day, he was one of the most famous American artists to ever come down the road. And if you show the picture for a second, Mike, this is an Annunciation. If you think of the great paintings of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, those paintings that show the moment when the angel Gabriel spoke directly to the Virgin Mother of God and they came to agreement. Gabriel offered Mary the choice to become the vessel, the human vessel through which the Savior was born. And Mary, with great graciousness and self-sacrifice, she called herself the handmaid of the Lord. Now, in all those Renaissance and medieval paintings, also beautiful. If you want to look at one, look at John van Eyck's Annunciation from the 1440s. Absolutely gorgeous. But by the time you get to the 19th century, the more obvious aspects of theology, the more obvious belief in the miracles, particularly the divine miracles of the Gospels, had tumbled quite a bit. Here's George Hitchcock's version of this, the American artist. You have the Mother of God, the Virgin Mother of God. There she is in the beautiful field. She's not in a temple like the Gospel story tells us, not in her home. She's out there in nature, very 18th century, mid 1800s iconography there. And there she's surrounded by lilies. These are the lilies. They're actually named the Madonna lilies because they are the lilies that represent purity, innocence, and self-sacrifice. They always have in all the cultures that they've come from. And so there is Mary surrounded by the flower dedicated to her. And she wears a translucent veil, right? Not dressed in the ultramarine blue that we always see her in the Middle Ages. She is dressed in green, like her surroundings outdoor. And what happens here, the angel Gabriel has been elided. The angel Gabriel has been removed from the scene, and those lilies that surround her and almost seem to grow up and perk up when she walks by, they whisper to her the news of the Annunciation, and she puts her hand to her breast in a sign of innocence and acceptance. And it's all there. The whole gospel story is there. You just got to read through the naturalism of mid-19th century America to see it.
All right, if you're a fan of the show, please consider a one-time tax-deductible donation to support our little Patriot Club, and we're going to send you our awesome signature freedom-loving tumbler. All you have to do to sign up and get that tumbler is visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us. And just a reminder, please download our brand new Freedom Project Media app on any smart device that you own. You're going to be able to watch all of our videos, including our 4-part lecture series entitled The Peanuts Gang, A Promise of Christian Redemption. It's quite entertaining and informative, and it's hosted by Dr. Duke. You also are going to get access on our app to our other lectures, our weekly shows, our in-depth interviews, and educational animations. And you know what? I could go on, but I'll stop there. Simply search Freedom Project wherever you download apps, and please make sure that you allow for notifications.
And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends.